Hello again. Welcome to the second Voxel camera keyframing tutorial. In the first tutorial, we looked at Voxel 1.6 new movie tool, and we saw how easy it is to create camera keyframes and thereby script a flyby of your model. So now we're just going to take a look at these tools in a little more in depth. First thing I want to do is go to the second keyframe that we set up, and what I want to do is not go to this third view, but instead insert some new keyframes, and actually let's travel through the model a little bit. So I'm going to zoom in here and set a new keyframe. Now if you notice, this new keyframe is actually inserted between the second and third original keyframe. That's because we started with the second one selected. So whenever you have a keyframe selected and you insert a new one, it will try to squeeze it in between any existing ones that are there. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to zoom over here, set another keyframe, and it will be inserted between these two. Okay, and then let's do one more. I'm going to swing around and then come down here a little bit. Okay, now if we take a look at this, you'll see it's going to pull over and then zoom in. Now that's a little bit quick. What happened was that by squeezing these keyframes in between the existing keyframes, the time between them got a lot smaller. So if you look at our first two keyframes, you got one at 0, one at 2, then this one's at 3 because it was squeezed between the 2 and the 4. Then the next one's at 3.5, then 3.75. You see the distance between them is just getting smaller and smaller. So we don't really want that. We want more space between the keyframes. So what I'm going to do is go to the one that's at 3.5, and I want to move that forward. Now up here you see a timeline where I can actually just drag between the keyframes, and if I actually tap on a keyframe, I can change its position. And you can see how close together these keyframes are. Now I could move this one forward, and that would help a little bit, but then all it does is bring us really close to this one. What we want to do is move all the keyframes from this one forward. So the way you do that is you just hold down on a keyframe until you hear that pop, and then you see these little hash marks to the right. That indicates that all the keyframes from this one forward are selected. So we're going to do that again, pop, and then slide forward, and notice it's sliding this keyframe as well. So now if we go back, we've got a keyframe at 3, we've got a keyframe at 4, and then we've got one at 4.35. So we want to do the same thing. I'm going to select this one and all the ones after it, move that forward a little bit. Then let's go to this one. Oh. Wait for the pop, slide that one forward, and then we've got one at 7.7, so that should be okay. Let's take a look. Okay, that's alright. So now what I want to do is let's set up a cut. A cut is when you move immediately from one view to the next instead of having a smooth transition. So where do we want to put the cut? Let's see. Let's do it instead of swinging around right there. So let's go from here, let's cut straight to this view instead of having it swing around. So all we need to do in order to cut is just take this keyframe and slide it back and just push it right up against that red, sort of the red view. So very intuitive, basically. Just do that and then immediately cuts. Another thing we can do is, say you accidentally put in a keyframe that you don't want, like, okay, I've got this one here and I want to get rid of that. So we're playing through, say you don't want it to jump down there. All you do is you tap the keyframe and you just drag it out, kind of like in the OS X dock. Another thing you can do is swap the position of keyframes. So if I take this keyframe, drag it down, and then slide to the left or right, you can see that I can change where it is in the timeline. So now it's going to go from here to here, and then finally to this one. And then swing back around to our original one. So that's basically all there is to dealing with keyframes and the camera in Voxel 1.6. The upcoming version 1.65 will have the ability to use these same keyframe controls to manipulate actual portions of your models called sprites, and we'll take a look at that in the next tutorial.